No. All right. Welcome, everybody. Again, twice in one day. We're doing 2 interviews. Man, we're killing it. We're killing it. We had Courtney Mims, who was wonderful yesterday, and then we had Mason Choate from Hogbeat. He was on earlier. And now we've got Ty Richardson coming up here shortly, here in just a few minutes. So this is what I want you guys to do. First off, shout out to the sponsors, Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, same-day services, quality parts, affordable outcomes, the best of the best, baby. They do it. Nobody does it like they do. So give them a call, 501-244-3667, and their link is provided for you down below. Of course, Insurance Max. They cover all 4 corners of our wonderful state. They offer business, personal, life and health insurance, retirement plans. They shop the best rates for you. Give them a call or their link. You just click on their link down below. Just click it. Just click it. Click it. Yeah. Some of you OGs will know what that's from. All right. So we got a loaded week, or we had a loaded week. I had thought about doing this on, doing like a final recap of everything that I've seen. We've had everyone else on. I've kind of given you guys my takes on fall camp a little bit here and there. We did last week. We covered it quite a bit. So I haven't made up my mind if I'm actually going to do another live show on Friday or not, but we got a busy week ahead of us. We're taking another trip to Silver Dollar City. I think we're going to try and go to the Washington County Fair at some point on Friday, and then just the day-to-day stuff. So I may still try to knock out another live, but, whatever. I am going to give you my final post-fall camp, as I've done every year, prediction on the season. Now, earlier, a few months ago, I said 4-8. I kind of looking at it team by team, matchup by matchup. I said 4-8, and nobody was going to move me off of that. I had to be, and keep in mind that was pre-fall camp. I had to see it for my own eyes. Just maybe, is it worse than I thought? Is it better than I thought? What's going on in fall camp? And not all those questions are going to get answered. They're not all going to get answered. From even spring and fall camp combined, the workout reports that we got from the strength conditioning coach throughout the summer, all that stuff combined can kind of help you formulate an idea of what's going to happen. But as I've said multiple times, I think I said it with Courtney, and I sure said it with Mason Choate earlier today, that, man, you do have to take a lot of this with a grain of salt because the portal has changed things so dramatically. Who the hell thought Arkansas would win 9 games Sam's second year? 9 games. Now, I did predict 8-4, but I didn't see that. I didn't see when they hired Pittman that they would get to 9 wins that quickly. And the portal is certainly because of that. And then who would have seen them do what they did last year, to fall as poorly as they did? Who would have seen that coming? Now, I know I've got a few friends who will tell me, I knew as soon as they hired Dan Enos. I was saying, and I can confirm there's a couple of people who called it. They nailed it. One of them's a good friend of mine. He stops by. He's been a legendary status member. He's the original legendary status member, and he called it on Marco Polo. He said straight up, this is I don't think this is a good hire at all. And he called it. We're going to miss a bowl game. He was right. Another friend of mine who's just always pessimistic also called. He said 5-7. He was close, but no cigar. So who would have thought all of that, right? Now, this is what I want you guys to do. And I don't care if you're here live watching this now, or if you're watching this after the fact. Give me your wins and loss, and make sure you tell me what it is. Don't just pop a number up on the screen. I'm not going to know what the hell you're talking about 20 minutes later. Tell me this is my prediction, Ty, and then give it to me. And if you want to, follow that up with your reasoning. Some of you have said, I've seen people in Discord, it's hard to tell who's being serious, but I've seen some people say 9-3, 10-2, 8-4. I've also seen some 4-8, some 3-9s. Let me know. I want to know in the comments section. Let's keep it flowing as we're waiting on Ty Richardson. I know he's a busy man. We had to reschedule this. This was supposed to be tomorrow at 4 p.m., but he had something come up, so we had to move this. So I'm grateful he could even make any time at all to come be here with us. So again, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. The sub count is growing. The views are starting to come back around now that we're getting through fall camp. So it's always great to see some people who haven't been in a live stream in a while. I'm seeing some of you kind of come back because the season is upon us. So without further ado, here he is, the man of the hour, Ty Richardson. How you doing, man?
Hi, brother. Doing good. That sound okay volume-wise?
Yeah, you sound good. Those
Okay.
Apple headphones, they get the job done.
Okay. Well, typically you're I'm in bed right now, so you got me at a time where I'm passed out, but wanted to make sure I could get on with you. So I appreciate you
it,
having me.
man. Yeah, I appreciate you taking a little time out of your evening to be here with us. And that's the great thing about working from home. I'm available pretty much whenever you are, really.
24/7, maybe.
All right. Well, again, you guys know him. He needs no introduction, but it is the Ty Richardson from the Morning Rush. Well, okay, it's the Morning Rush still, right? You guys are keeping with that name.
Yes, we're sticking with that name. It's been a staple for our radio stations for nearly 2 decades. And didn't make a lot of sense to change it. But as of Monday, new programming with Bo and Chuck beginning 6 a.m. So I'll get to sleep in. My alarm's not going to go off at 3:30 anymore, which is nice, and get a chance to hear from two of the perennial sports broadcasters, especially on the radio side of things in our state the last umpteen decades. I mean, I guess Chuck's been doing it since 90s and 2000s, and then Bo basically took it from him, and now they're back. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited.
Yeah, I am too. I started listening. Well, of course, Chuck, when I was a kid, my dad would pick me up from football practice at Ramey Junior High or whatever. And on the way home, he'd have Chuck Barrett on, and
oh yeah.
So, I mean, that's just what you grew up with, right? Back in the 90s. And of course, Bo Mattingly was my version of that.
I got to be honest. And I told Chuck this, sorry, Ty, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're fine. You're cutting out a little bit. Are you good?
Yeah, you know what? I'm paying for fiber internet at my house, and I'm plugged in directly to it, and I'm still having this issue. Is it bad, Ty?
No, you're good now. You're good now. If it's Ozarks Go, you ought to be pretty good.
Well, it's AT&T, so we need some, I guess, Ozarks Go down here in the River Valley and Fort Smith, which is really irritating because I literally am paying for the highest megabits or whatever it is possible for houses, and it's still crappy internet. But no, kind of like you're saying, listen to Bo. Ty never listened to Chuck on sports rap. I can't think of one time. I grew up in Little Rock, so the radio station was always on 103.7 The Buzz. Love David. Love Randy, Rick, and those guys. I just, for whatever reason, never listened to Chuck. I know that he's been on different stations over the course of my early years, but that was my pastime. And then when I got to college, it was Bo, intern for Bo. But I did love listening to Chuck on the Razorback Daily, and enjoyed and learned a lot from him doing the Give Me the Hogs Chuck podcast the last 2 years.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to hear him in the morning. I remember being shocked when that was announced with you guys. I was like, wow. So Bo is going to, he's already the voice of the Razorbacks. So now he's going to also do morning radio. And I know he's talked about he's better in the morning anyways. That's his A game is the morning. So have you had many interactions at all with Bo Mattingly over the years?
Yeah. I mean, I interned for him for a year. Since then, I mean, I've seen him at the occasional Razorback game.
Yeah.
I got a chance to work with him. I don't want to discredit Bo or anything, but I learned a lot in a year, not just from him, but Bart Pullman and Sawyer Radler. Saw's the GM of Hogs Plus. Bart's going to take over producing Bo's new venture with this radio show. So those two guys, and in addition to Bo, were very instrumental in my early years of sports radio. And of course, John Neighbors and Tommy Kraft have had a massive impact on my life too, on that side of things. But I would say those were two of the oldest mentors I've had when it comes to jumping in sophomore year, really, really intense in sports radio.
Well, the thing that I always admired, and I listen to you guys because I'm texting you in the morning.
Yeah.
But the thing I remember, Bo's show, the guests he would bring on, like Barry Switzer, Keith Jackson, God, I mean, national people, like these huge names, and the insight was incredible. And I swear, Tommy Kraft and Ty Richardson and Chuck has been my go-to in the mornings. Really top tier radio, but boy, Bo's shows, just it's like they would have a whole show circled around one position. They would talk about like the left tackle spot, and they could carry that on for an hour and a half. And Ty, I don't know how the hell you guys do that.
Yeah, that's a skill.
Does that.
That's a skill I don't possess. I'm bad sometimes with getting too much content that I've got to run down. Probably that's 6-7 pages right now. That's not a talent I have. Bo had it, Chuck has it, and again, he would tell you that Bart and Saw have been instrumental of his 10+ years sports talk show.
Yeah.
Chuck is just that is a gift, again, that I did not possess, how he does that. It is unique. Again, that's those two are going to be, you think about how heightened it was in sports radio when both those two are on, were separate times. We both basically just took the torch from Chuck. I tend to think that based on the talent that both those guys have, that we're going to have some fun starting at 6 a.m. on Monday. And again, I'm going to have fun because I get to sleep in and don't have to wake up at 3:30 a.m. anymore.
Oh my gosh. So when you guys broke that story or broke that news, and you announced that that Chuck and Bo show was taking over, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, Ty's got to be on cloud 9 right now.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I several texts was just like, hey, congrats, you get to sleep in now, and they understood. Yeah. And I don't want to misrepresent and instead of having had fun, like misrepresent how I feel about doing this morning show. It hasn't been the full 6 years because I did a little bit of halftime and didn't produce the morning show, but for the most part, Ty, it's the better half of my career thus far at ESPN Arkansas has been working up the crack. And it's been good for me. You mature. I'd like to say that I'm like a non-millennial during the week and still a millennial dumbass on the weekends, which is I think most of my friends would tell you that. But I'm very structured, very rigid on certain things I do during the week. If I'm in Arkansas, unless it's a holiday or special occasion, I will not drink a drop of alcohol. Just because knowing I got to wake up at that time the next day, don't want to have any cognitive disabilities that next day when waking up with a hangover or something like that. So it's been a luxury of mine to not only intern with Bo back in college, but also been working for Chuck the last 2 years. And as most of you guys have heard, it hasn't always been the most peaceful of times, but more often than not, he was right. And I'm just a stubborn kid. So
I'm not gonna lie though. Listen, first off, you're kind of selling yourself short that you don't have certain abilities, my friend. Listen. I've talked to not plenty, but I've talked to several radio people. I see Josh Bertaccini at practice every once in a while. It's got to be. I don't know. It's hard to put together a live show on YouTube that's going to run for maybe an hour and a half. I don't know how you structure a show. And I get you've got Tommy and you had Chuck to kind of help you out. Yeah. It's just me here as a solo act, but I don't know how the hell you put together a show for 3 hours, 5 days a week, the whole year round, especially like in June. If Arkansas doesn't make a run to the College World Series, July, the early part of August, oh my God.
Well, that's the other good thing about this is you move from 6 to 9 to 9 to 11, which is 2 hours. And still get paid the same, which we've kind of had some fun joking about. I'll spend anywhere from 2 to 3 hours a day prepping for the next day's show. Some are better than others, as you've heard, and many of our other audiences heard. But I've never just like mailed in a show where I don't prep at all. Because again, I'm not talented enough to carry a show for 3 hours without my structure in place and the kind of things that I go about doing. Helps when you have really good interviews. You brought up some of Bo's guests that he's had on recently. I remember when I was an intern and I did the phones. It's just cool to hey, I'm calling Dari Noka or
Yeah.
the late Chris Mortensen, or Reese Davis, or Kurt Herbstreit. I mean, the list would go on. And as a college kid, when you're still a fan, you don't get to see these guys in public and SEC media days and stuff. It's a huge deal. So you
Yeah.
don't want to screw it up. I'm sure if we go back, I probably did from time to time, but now it's just kind of like par for the course. It was cool to interview Felix Jones the other day.
Yeah.
I guess that was this week on Monday. Felix was a huge icon in my early life, and Darren's always going to be my all-time favorite Razorback. He's a 501 kid. Love that. But
We used to
Felix
all
just
be 501, by the way.
yeah, Felix is just it was cool. It's always good to go back and interview one of your heroes, and I approach this I think a little differently because there's journalists obviously that work in our industry that do a really good job covering the Razorbacks and run bys and stuff. I think the way I look at it is like I'm not going to hide that I'm a fan. I think to me, I think Trey Biddy does as good of a job of anyone of being direct, sincere, and honest, using his fandom to motivate him to work 80 hours a week, but at the same time, not overclouding or overshadowing or overhyping his judgment about a football, basketball, or baseball program here in Fayetteville. Sorry, that was a long answer.
I sometimes watch him at practice, and he'll have some of the other writers there with him at practice, but he's walking around talking into his phone. I guess that's how he does his note taking.
Yep.
And he's just straight to work, and it's like he's working the sidelines like crazy, and I'm over here just trying to film, like, I don't know, maybe the receivers.
Yeah.
I'm just one guy, but I've only been going to these practices now for what, 4, I think, is this my 4th year, 3rd, 4th year, whatever. But it's something to watch him, and sometimes I'm like, should I be doing that? What am I missing out on?
I'm bad sometimes about treating open practices, open scrimmages, open any types of media get-togethers, and hey, good to see you, and spending more time on just reconnecting with people rather than, hey, this is work. This is like you need to every little detail you can pick up in 20 or 30 minutes or an hour basketball practice. You need to be there watching, listening, and paying attention, not socializing with just kind of my personality. But I mean, there's certain guys. Bo's this way, Chuck's this way, Trey's this way, where when they're at a Razorback event, like they are on. Like, don't bother them unless it's something to do with work related or something.
Yep.
I learned that from being around all three. Like, I don't say Chuck before a game, like right before a game. If I see him, hey man, what's up? Hey Ty, good to see you. And I know that's the extent. I don't want to pester him. I don't want to bother him. He's got a million things going through his mind with injuries and what the coaches just told him and just various things. And we've had some fun talking about that on air. But it is, again, the dynamics. You have different media members and how they go about covering the Razorbacks has been fascinating to me the last 20 some odd years, probably while I'm also in the industry too.
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of like you said on the radio, I heard you say it and I was like, I get that. You said it's once you're in, it's kind of hard to get out.
Oh, it's a drug. Yeah. And the perfect example is Chuck and Derek. I mean, Derek jumped out of the morning rush. What would that have been? 2017, I believe. Chuck jumped out of Sports Wrap. 2007. Now his was, for obvious reasons, becoming the voice of the Razorbacks. In addition to baseball, took over football, and then after Mike Nail retired, he took over basketball. And I mean, he got an itch to get back into it, and now he's into it full time. And he's built enough a cachet that he can do that. And for Derek, you think about just kind of sitting around. And initially it was the Ruskin is Ranting podcast, and then it became, hey, let's do this radio show, Zach Arns, and not talk Razorback sports at all for 85% of the time, and yet still have a really quality radio show. I think that we, for as small as a state, we always talk about the small as a state. We've got some really talented sports media members, and I'm not including myself on this. I'm just kind of a few of the guys I just rattled off there. We're lucky that they enlighten us each and every weekday from time to time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, again, I'm excited for Monday. I'm not gonna lie. Now, I am one of those listeners. Like, I try to catch y'all in the off season when I can, but it's just so convenient in the morning when I'm dropping my girls off at Lisa Academy in Springdale. I've got you guys on. Of course, my kids are griping because I'm not listening to, I don't know,
Kids Bop.
well, it's like Drake or, of course we listen to everything censored if we're going to listen to stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to Drake or Eminem. And I'm like, girls, first off, you can't listen to them censored. And that's all you're going to listen to is them censored. So maybe when you're older, but for now, we're going to listen to Sports Talk in the morning or the morning rush.
Hey, raising them right. Ty, we appreciate that. It is funny because it's a male industry, but there's plenty of women that listen to our program. Yeah. What has happened a lot of times with some of my friends is they now, and I say my guy friends and then my girlfriends that are either wives, girlfriends, fiancés, or just my friends.
Yeah.
And they'll now listen because so-and-so listener, so-and-so got them on. One of the things that struck me a couple years ago was, I think it was Tommy that told me this, and he was right. You see, I was really bad about making it too male macho, and I still am from time to time. I say things that that I need to make it as inclusive and less exclusive, because more listeners you have, the better show you're going to have, I think. And I didn't think about that until this was like a year into doing halftime or something like that. And it kind of just like, man, this doesn't have to be a sports show that just macho men listen to. You can make it about anything and include everybody. And listening to Randy Rainwater back in the day, who's had 30 some odd years and for the Buzz and sports radio, I told him this at SEC Media Days years ago. I was like, you're one of the main reasons that I stuck in this industry, because even as a middle school kid, when I would call into Drive Time Sports, you never made me feel like an idiot.
Yeah.
And I probably said some egregious things at 13 years old or whatever I was. But the way he approached callers has always stayed with me.
Yeah.
It's remarkable, and that's probably why he's so successful and still is.
It's funny you say that, because when Chuck had his show, of course, I'm a diehard Ram fan.
Mm-hmm.
I have been since they moved ironically, when they moved from LA to St. Louis. I had to endure the bad years. I got to see the greatest show on turf. I went to a Monday night football game in 2000. Yeah, I got to watch them lose to the Redskins. Diehard Ram fan. And I can remember, of course, I didn't understand how TV contracts worked or whatever, but I was like in 9th grade, I think. And I called into Chuck's show. Of course, he's a diehard Cowboy fan. And I was like, Chuck, and I know he would never remember this, Chuck, we need to get your stinking Cowboys off Fox. Let's start showing a good team, the Rams. I'll never forget that. My dad called me afterwards. He goes, did you just call in to Chuck talking about your Rams? I said, you damn right I did.
What did Chuck say?
I don't even remember his answer. I was so nervous to call in.
Were you like stammering, Ty? Were you like,
I probably was.
Chuck,
yeah. I probably was. I always thought about calling into y'all's show and asking him if he remembered that, but I doubt he does. That was so long ago.
Dude, he's taken. And the thing about sports radio, even when you called, is like you could say whatever you want and not get canceled. And now everything's recorded. Now everything is reposted. And if you say the slightest thing that's condoned as sexist, racist, any way you go, even if you don't intend it to be that, it's just like canceled. So, it is. I'll say this about where we're at now with like what we're doing now, YouTube, Facebook, X Live. People have more access to us, but you have less access to say what you actually want to say, because you have to be so tempered all the time. Yeah. And that sucks. Like, I wish I could have done sports radio in the 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, because I would have been unhinged at times. And I am, from an anger standpoint, but not necessarily saying certain things off the wall that would not fly today.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to watch myself here. I think YouTube. I only stream here, and I stream with Arkansas Sports Network. By the way, shout out to them. I'll stream on their Facebook page as well. So maybe that would be at risk more so than YouTube. YouTube seems to be a lot more. I don't know. Like I'm watching stuff on YouTube where Kill Tony. I don't know if you watch Kill Tony or
Oh
not.
my gosh, yeah.
I think about what those guys say. Shane Gillis, and I listen to all that stuff. Joe Rogan, that's my jam. If I'm not watching sports or politics, I'm watching comedy, and they're saying so much more now than they were 4 or 5 years ago. It's crazy.
It was like it wasn't condoned for that 4 or 5 year stint, and then people were just like, all right, screw it. We're gonna get back. Now I don't have. You mentioned some incredible performers. I'm not Joe Rogan. I'm not some of the other outstanding YouTubers that are out there, and I haven't built enough equity as a human being to say whatever I want and get away with it with sponsors and a job, anything like that. But some of those guys can. Shane Gillis is the funniest person on the planet right now. I think Kevin Hart held that title for a number of years. Like anytime I heard him talk, I was just like, this is the funniest guy on earth. And now anytime I hear Shane Gillis say anything or that tire show, or he's just so funny. And he's got a hot girlfriend. Like the dude has everything that a male wants right now.
Got back on SNL or was asked to come back to be a guest. That's still an incredible moment. I'm lucky, and I do have sponsors. I've never had a sponsor text me like, whoa, you can't say that. Not yet. Yeah. I probably do push the boundaries a little bit, I'm sure. Well, let's get into a little bit of let's talk some Razorbacks, Ty.
All right.
And this, I'm going to fire it from the hip right here. And this is, you talk about scripting out your shows. I do the exact same thing. So I'm literally going to read you what I have typed out here. We know the heat is on for Sam Pittman. The question has to be asked. Do you believe there's a realistic possibility that Sam Pittman does not survive the season? I know you've talked about this a little bit on the Morning Rush, but for the folks here, Test Talk viewers, I'd love your insight on this.
Yeah, I mean, if he goes 5-7, I don't see how he keeps his job. If he gets 6 wins, I think he keeps his job. And in some people's opinion, you don't necessarily think it should be as concrete or black and white as that, but I just don't think the powers that be will be able to keep him if they don't make a bowl game this year. And you've got 3 non-conference games you should win, even though the UAB with the late Chris Mortensen's son, Alex, offensive coordinator of that team. You got Trent Dilfer's the head coach. That might be a weird game. I don't know much. I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot about Louisiana Tech, but you'll blow out UAPB. And then the Stillwater game's just tough. I mean, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship, I think. So, there's no like probability. It's like not set in stone that he makes it 6 wins. If he doesn't do that, I mean, you're putting yourself. You keep walking on the ice, right? You just keep walking out there, and eventually it's going to break. For Sam, who I listened to before I came on with you on Sam Pittman Live, I'm going to listen to what he had to say at the Hogs Illustrated Sports Club earlier today. Listen to him and T-Well. I'll give him this. He's been pretty jovial, pretty lighthearted. Let's say there was rumors out, and I say rumors, let's say there was rampant speculation out there for me during football season that I was going to get fired if the Morning Rush didn't perform to a certain level. I wouldn't handle that well. I would be I'm just telling you my personality versus his. I would be very hostile. I would be very combative. And I would be very ticked off at any question that was asked about it. He's taking it lightly. Now, some haven't been a big fan of that. I'm sitting here thinking, you know what? I'll give him credit on this. Now, I'll give him more credit. He wins football games because that's what he gets paid to do. That's what I hope he does, because I don't want to go through another coaching search. Arkansas doesn't need to, but yeah, it's very possible he gets fired. Some of you even make a case that it's probable they don't get to 500. You know why? Because the betting line's 4.5. So that leads you to believe that even if they get 5 wins, it's still not 500. So it's SEC, man. It's what you signed up for.
Well, yeah, and the pushback that you'll get is, well, you don't have Georgia on your schedule. You don't have Oklahoma. You don't have, Alabama. I guess you could chalk Oklahoma up in there as well. I think they're going to be pretty good. But that's usually the pushback that I get, that, well, you don't have those teams. It's like, yeah, but you realize there's at least 4 or 5 possible playoff contenders on your schedule alone.
Yeah.
And that's brutal. And I realize that's like everyone in the SEC, right? Especially for the teams that do have Alabama and Georgia, maybe Oklahoma. I don't know if I have them in playoff. I don't know if I'm there with them yet, but it's a brutal schedule. It doesn't get easy, especially coming out of Oklahoma State. You get that game afterwards, whatever, and then you're right into the SEC schedule. You're right into playing Auburn and, so on and so forth. Eventually you get Tennessee at home. It's going to be – and you're right, too. And I love that you brought up how Sam has handled this.
Yeah.
Because you're exactly right. Last year, he did get a little bit – I don't want to say hostile, but
no, he did. He did. I mean,
okay. You think he got open?
Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
we've seen worse from coaches, so maybe that's what I had in the back of my head. I thought it could have been a lot worse last year.
It could have. But you could tell he's getting testy. I mean, Trey asked him a question or two that he didn't like. It was a fair question.
Yeah.
It's like, I get it. Especially with the interesting thing about last year that I always keep coming back to is, as good as they played on the road, and I know they only won the 4 SEC road games. They got blown. With the exception of A&M, they played good on the road. They played good at LSU. They played good at Oxford. They played good in Tuscaloosa. They just lost those games. And they beat Florida. Outside of the A&M game, you're technically the home team, but it's a road/neutral site. You look good to competitive in any of those games. You got curb stopped at home. And you look awful against Mississippi State. The home schedule this year is more difficult than the road.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times in the history of Arkansas football, Ty, can we say that Arkansas's home SEC schedule since 1992 has been more difficult than their road test this year?
Yeah.
I mean, look at it. There's in my opinion, there's no comparison. The road schedule is easier.
Yeah, that's true. Because Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas. I mean, that's brutal. And those are home games.
Yes.
You still do have to go on the road. Missouri, I think. Listen, I don't know where you're at on Missouri. I think Missouri, unfortunately, is a playoff contender. But
yeah, very much so.
Yeah, this home schedule it's brutal. It's
awful.
And I don't know why last year at home they played so poorly, and yet they played better on the road. Maybe it was the timing and the injuries just stacked up at the right time. I don't know, but it was very, very, looking back on it, when I did a kind of a recap show at the end of the year, and I remember thinking, how is it that this is the case? The rule has always been you play better at home in front of your home crowd. And that wasn't the case. And that obviously that's got to change. But yeah, so my next question was going to be, is 5 wins enough to keep his job? And you already answered that. But I mean,
do you think it is?
No.
I mean, I just don't know how you can sell a fan base, board of trustees, anyone else, boosters. I don't know how you can sell hope off based on a 1-win turnaround. Now, I mean, I guess maybe the Texas win is that crew by it. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think he's got to get to 6, and I don't think that's unfair. I think there's unfair expectations put on coaches, but I don't think getting to 6 wins is an unfair barometer for Sam Pittman and what he needs to do to keep his job. I mean, I'm not in it every day, and I don't know the pressure that companies did. I think for him, he just wants to be at Lake Hamilton with Jamie in 5 to 10 years and not get yelled at or beer thrown at his boat. Wants to be waved at. Hey, coach. Hey, guys. I mean, I don't blame him for that either. And I hope he does. I really do.
Are you buying that this is the thing I also hear. Well, he just wants to retire. I'm not buying that.
I don't think you can just tell anytime he talks about NIL, it's hard on him. So I don't know if you caught that story today. We're going to have Matt Norlander join us tomorrow. He's just CBSSports.com. And curious to see, because apparently, according to his report, Arkansas's got ever-flowing NIL money for basketball, right? Yeah. So I think it's difficult for Sam Pittman to not only get the NIL money, but ask for it. I mean, college sports is just way different than it was even 5 years ago,
Oh my
particularly in
gosh.
college football. And retiring, in a sense, you're not going to get fired. You don't have that attached to your name the rest of your life. It's, I think there's more, that's more of a likelihood of a possibility than we think. Even if he was to go to a bowl game this season, if not this season, but in a season, I just think it's closer than people think. I mean, I didn't call it after that. I felt very strongly Nick Saban was going to retire like really soon, and I got mocked for having that opinion, and it happens. You just never know with these guys. You never know what they're thinking, and I think it's more real than maybe some people think it is.
Yeah, you're right. When you bring up the NIL stuff, he does seem a little gassed on it. I mean, I have picked up on that a little. You could tell he's just like, you can see it on his face. And I
They
don't
get
know if
asked
he's,
about it all the time, though, Ty. I mean,
yeah,
imagine if you have this chat that I'm looking at right now. Imagine if you could just get the same question over and over and over, and
oh
you
yeah,
answered it. You try to be honest, you try to be true, and you try to be respectful. But every once in a while, you're going to get agitated because
yeah,
I've answered this question every way possible.
yeah.
So I don't blame him or any other coach if occasionally they get a little spirited in that answer.
That's fair. Bringing Bobby back definitely shook things up. That took a little bit of heat off of Sam at the time. So many things could happen this year alone. If the worst case scenario does play out that Sam, whatever happens, if he gets fired throughout the season, obviously then now there's a whole different conversation we're having as to who is the interim head coach. Is there a realistic, do you see a realistic path that Bobby Petrino, he's not tied at the hip to Sam and what happens, that he could become the next head coach? I know a part of me hates to ask you that because that has been another one of the pillars of conversation in the offseason. But I don't know that I've heard you actually talk about that a lot in the morning. To be fair, I haven't watched all of them. But just for me and in the Tuss Talk crowd, do you see a logical possibility here that Petrino really could be the next guy up?
Well, I think if we're talking logic was thrown out the window when you rehired him as your offensive coordinator.
Yeah,
Because
that's
there's
true.
not a single one of us, including myself, that thought he would ever step foot on this campus in a working capacity again.
Ditto. Yeah.
And I say working capacity for the University of Arkansas because technically he was that 2 years ago as Missouri State's head coach.
Yeah.
So I just think in today's age, and I've said this with Chuck and Tommy before, we can't assume that anything is off the table anymore in college sports. So I know that's a popular fan take. I don't think it's going to happen, but for me to tell you, no, it's definitively not going to happen, I think would be a misstep on my part. So never know. Never know in Fayetteville with the football program, Ty.
You don't. Yeah. Or basketball.
Or basketball for that matter. Exactly.
I was talking to Mason Choate earlier from Hogbeat,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about Dave Van Horn, how like people are telling him this is the year Dave's going to retire. This is the year. You know, of course, they're wrong every year. And the sense I get is DVH is not retiring anytime soon.
I think if he was to win a national championship, he would retire.
I could see.
I think it would come relatively quickly. And then I've said this on the show before, it would be the most coveted job on that campus in how many years?
Oh, gosh.
I mean, so I guess the track and field program's up there, but it's not as notable as your baseball program. It's just not. And even with the 40-some-odd national championships, I mean, your football program is not going to be coveted, whoever takes over down the road, whoever it is. Your basketball program, we didn't think it was as coveted as Cal made it out to be. Maybe post-Cal, it reaches new heights, and there's blue blood coaches all over the place that are interested, depending on what Cal does. But I mean, your baseball program is set for success. Facilities, fan base. I mean, there's not many fan base outside like Mississippi State can get 10,000 plus each game. Not for the weekend, each game. So I think that is going to be as as much talked about as a national coaching search with the Arkansas job of any job that's been on that campus in recent years.
Oh man, the foundation, it's beyond set. It's like it's a mansion that just doesn't have the flag waving up top yet. They don't have the national championship. They don't have that waving, but it's a freaking mansion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy how attractive that job will be. I mean, fans are upset. I mean, don't get me wrong. The last 2 years, I kind of get it, but if you don't advance beyond the supers, if you don't make it to Omaha, it's a bust of a season. And I try to tell people here all the time, and other, just people out and about, you know how many programs that would kill to be in this situation? Yeah, we don't have the title, but you've got to think about how many teams there are. You got to think about what conference you're in, how tough your schedule is, and yeah, I get it. The last 2 years, they haven't been able to advance to the supers, but whatever. Anyway, staying on track with football, going to the actual on the field product really quick. We know Bobby's offenses are a bit technical and can possibly take a couple of years to really, everyone get on the same page and the quarterback really understand what's going on. What do you think we'll realistically see out of Arkansas's offense year one?
Whew, good question.
Because I don't know that I can answer this.
So A&M had a 7-point uptick, and apparently Petrino wasn't even able to run his stuff. They had 3 different quarterbacks that played for him last year. So Johnson, Wigman, and I can't remember the other kid. Hanskeen wasn't still there.
No.
I mean, you can't be worse than you were last year. I mean, there's no way that they're going to be worse than they were last year offensively. I don't know. I mean, this is where you draw the line of being a fan or seeing we actually. I mean, the offensive line. I mean, this Kudas hadn't practiced in 2.5 weeks.
He hasn't been there at all.
He's supposed to be your starting. Help me on this. Is right or left guard?
Left guard.
Okay. So I know they've been rotating a combination of Marion Harris and Wiggins.
Yeah.
If you don't have one of your stalwarts in the middle, I don't know, man. I think that I go back and forth in this daily because it's all right, Petrino's giving another 7 points, but he doesn't have the same talent he did in College Station, but he was this lethal and it's just like a back and forth. They will be better than they were last year. There is no way that they can be worse. That is a atrocious answer to a thoughtful question on your part, but I think I'm going to go back and forth on this for the next 8 days as we continue to discuss with Arkansas football.
Well, it's I didn't ask Mason this earlier, but I had thought about it before. I don't have an answer for anybody. I don't know. And a lot of it is because Petrino's system, it's known to be he's an attention to detail guru.
Yeah.
That's what he is. And that makes things in the film room. It's gotta be, I don't know, man. Like I always compared Musselman to, I thought he was kind of the Petrino version for Arkansas basketball for what Petrino was here.
Oh, it's a great comparison.
Just as a mind for the sport, and all the little things that Musselman picked up on, and
hard to work for, highly animated. Yeah, there's a lot of winner in a short stint, but it's not harmonious. It doesn't last for decades upon decades. It's very quick. You love it when it's happening. Then when it ends, I say when it ends, Arkansas actually got lucky when it ended with Cal. Again, shout out John Tyson for hooking that up, but it's not always the smooth transition that we've seen with Arkansas basketball these last 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. What's your primary area of concern for Arkansas football on either side of the ball? It could just be the one area. You don't have to go into
I mean, you still got to go offensive line.
Okay.
I mean, I don't care. I listened to Josh Braun and during Sam Pittman Live, and I know what he talked about standards and stuff. I mean, that's one of those position groups. Like I just don't give a rip what him or Mateos or anyone else said. That's not a shot to Josh or Coach Mateos. It's just like, you got to show us something because they didn't show us anything last year. KJ was on it. I don't think I've seen a quarterback get beaten and battered like KJ in the A&M game. I mean, that was horrible.
Coach of the year.
Yeah, offensive line. Then on the defensive side, I would say secondary, because I've heard Williams, Woodson, Pittman, Wilson, William. I mean, they all are positive about the linebackers. So that's what I keep hearing about. The guys that they added, and Dix and Worth and Switzer moving over to that position some. And I thought that was going to be the weakness of their defense. They don't seem as strong and heavy tone when it comes to talking about their secondary. And I think anytime you have an all-SEC guy, Landon Jackson, that kind of makes up maybe for some just solid or okay SEC defensive linemen. So I'm going to say secondary and offensive line, Ty.
Okay. I'm 100% with you on the offensive line, and I think it's well. Look, what happens if, and I hate to do this, knock on wood, Fernando Carmona, if anything happens to that dude, Ty, your season is in jeopardy.
Yeah. Now
Mason brought up a good point earlier today. He said you could move a Marion Harris over to left tackle, but to be fair, Harris, I don't know the last time that he lined up at that position. I don't know that I've seen him run with the tackles at all at camp. Now, it's possible I missed it if he did. I know Josh Street has been over there. Man, I don't know. And that's not a
big drop off, like you're saying. Yeah, huge drop off.
Yeah, and that's a bit of a problem. But I'm all in on the starters. I say I'm all in. I liked what I saw out of Carmona. He was lined up across Landon Jackson through spring and fall camp.
Yeah.
And held his own. And that's a guy that's a potential first-round draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gotta tell you something. And as far as the secondary, I said that going into spring camp, that was my big area of concern. I don't know. I guess I feel a little bit better. Danico Slaughter. Of course, you got Braxton back there. I don't know what to make of Keon Stewart. I don't think he's going to start. Marquise Robinson certainly had some moments. I feel a little bit better about the secondary. I feel a lot better about the linebacker core. For me on defense, it's the interior defensive line. Beyond Gregory and Cam Ball, I just don't know what to make. I kind of like Ian Jaffrard. I love he moves really well for someone that size. The jury's kind of out for me on the kid from BYU.
Danny Sailey.
I think it's Sailey. Yeah.
Sailey.
Yeah. Jury's kind of out on him. Kaivi Rose, just to me, he's a gap guy. That's really about it. But yeah, I'm 100% with, and I still think you could be onto something about the secondary because, while they did have, especially that second scrimmage, they apparently just tore it up. Now I know some balls got tipped at the line of scrimmage, but I could see the secondary being problematic. I really can. I don't think it's like you feel kind of the same, like one or two injuries could really mess them up.
Yeah, they've been really high on TJ Metcalf.
Yes.
He's going to rotate with Hudson, or maybe not rotate, but it's going to play.
Good start over him.
Season. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one thing to do in practice. Let's see what you got, young buck.
That's it.
They like his little brother too.
Yeah, Tevis.
Mm-hmm. So that's been one of the guys that I've listened to hear his name in these press conferences, and it's come up a lot. So apparently he's making some plays.
I think they both had really strong camps. Final question, and this is what I told I told Discord I would do.
Oh gosh. Okay.
It's real simple. What's your official record? You might already have gone public with this. I don't know. And if you don't feel comfortable to answer it, don't.
No. It's kind of like the offense. I have gone back and forth between 5-7 and 6-6 every day since that question was asked me like 3 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I just keep going back and forth every day. It rotates. It's a 1 game gap, and I just keep going back and forth on that. Obviously, based on what I said earlier, that could change the outcome of Arkansas football heading into 2025. I think what's best for Arkansas football is not only for Sam Pittman to win 6, but get to 7 and continue on this stretch and set up your recruiting. Because I think my thing is, I think you can flip some of these in-state kids. You just got to win some games. I mean, that Kern kid, Marion Robinson, I don't know about Wimberly, some of the other guys. I mean, you just got to win. They got to believe that, you know what, I'm not just going to Fayetteville because I'm an in-state kid. I'm going to Fayetteville because I want to win some mother bleeping football games. And none of these kids have seen a double-digit win season.
Yeah.
Think about that. Not a single one of these class of 2025 kids have in-state because they don't remember 14 some odd years ago. They were freaking 3-4.
Yeah.
When they did in 2011, 13 years ago, I guess. So you got to show them something. And otherwise, you're going to miss on these in-state kids, and they're probably going to go off and do great things at other universities. And you're going to be kicking yourself because of that.
Yeah. So you're at 6? Is that where you're at?
Again, it's that 5 and 7, 6 and 6. Elmer's, I know he listens to our show in the morning and says, if you're hoping for 6 and 6 in year 5, that's the sign. I'm not hoping for 6 and 6, hoping for 7 and 5 or 8 and 4 or 9 and 3. But I think reality has set in based on this roster and this team, and you're probably going to be closer to that 5 or 6. I think you'll break your season win total at 4.5. Yeah. But like, am I locked in on getting to 500? Absolutely not.
So I am at, because a couple months ago I put them at 4 and 8.
Okay.
I didn't see a whole lot of hope. I still have questions, and of course it starts like with what you said, the offensive line. If they could stay healthy, my pick is 6 and 6.
Okay.
I think they can get there. Now, I'm not going to talk about who that is for my crowd. That's going to be next week. But who I think they can beat, some of them are probably coin flip games that maybe Arkansas finally gets some of those. You look at the Texas A&M, good God, so many coin flip games.
Oh, geez, yeah.
So I'm at 6 and 6. I think they can get there. The linebacker depth, just the improvement of Landon Jackson. Ty, I've been at camp. I've watched him. I didn't pay a ton of attention to the defensive line. I'm one guy. I can only be in so many areas. Certainly watched him and Jukic and watched just some of the other interior guys too. They look like they have a little bit more pop off the line of scrimmage. They look a little bit leaner. They just have that look of being a legit SEC defensive line. And that has kind of changed my opinion a little bit. The tight end room is, oh my God. I mean, it's might be one of the deepest in the SEC. Receivers, I have moved their ceiling up a little bit. I wasn't super duper high going into spring and coming out of spring camp, but it's a lot of what they did in spring camp we're seeing it still in fall camp a little bit. So that's always a good sign. I think they can get there. But at the end of the day, Talon Green, the season's it's all on his shoulders. I mean, I hate to say that, but that is the truth of the matter, especially when Bobby Petrino is your offensive coordinator. It's going to come down to him and his decision-making. Can't have the interception to touchdown ratio that he had at Boise State. But I trust in Bobby. I mean, I just do. So, yeah, 6 and 6. So, everyone who picked 6 and 6, you're getting XP in Discord. Congratulations. That's a ton of XP I got to give away. But, yeah.
Let's hope you're right then. Let's hope.
6 and 6 would be, I think it would. I feel like it would keep him for another year, but I don't know. Who knows? So, yeah. All right, Ty.
That's Arkansas football in a nutshell. Who knows?
Oh, my God. Every year. Oh, my God. Even the good. Even 2021. Holy crap. What a year that was. And then just like that, it feels like it was over. And then kind of reality sets in.
Yeah. Well,
hey, man, I appreciate you. I know you got to get to bed. You got to get up early. I'm sure I'm going to drop you some text in the morning.
Do it, man. Did they, just to be clear to my connection, I had to turn my phone's Wi-Fi off. Was it good the rest of the time?
Oh yeah, it was
terrible.
Great. Yeah. You're even coming in like high def. Your picture looks even better.
Oh, great. They can see my uglier face now. It's in high def.
No.
Yippee-ki-yay.
We see them luscious blonde locks. That's what we see.
It's my only asset. I had to get a prescription today to make sure this hair stays where it's at. Hopefully, if that prescription is worth the $4 I'm paying a month for it, which is not that bad.
Bro,
$4 for good hair, I'll take it.
I might have to hit you up because I am thinning out. Like, I am thinning out up top, dude. I'm 41 and I'm starting to feel it, and so is my head.
Oh, jeez.
Starting to thin out, so I might have to hit you up for that prescription if it works.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. Have a good show in the morning, and can't wait to hear you at 9 o'clock next week.
Thanks, brother Ty. Appreciate it, man.
Anytime, man. Thanks for coming on. Ty Richardson, everybody. He always, I think that's his, second or third time he's been on. He always kills it. Great insight. Highly recommend. If you're not listening to them, listen. If you're out of radio range, you could follow them on YouTube. Just look up the Morning Rush on YouTube, and you could catch their their live streams. Yeah, I am at 6-6, and like I said, I'm going to go over. I mean, look, I'm not even sure I could tell you that I could pinpoint exactly who I think they beat, but I could tell you there's several coin flip games. And you guys, if you've been around long enough with my channel, with my show, as long as I've been doing this, I always talk about coin flip games. I'm going to be real with you. I think they have several, and I think maybe, knock on wood, Lady Luck might actually be in favor of the Razorbacks, and Arkansas finds their way to 6. I just couldn't get to 7. I couldn't get to 8. And to be real with you, I probably would be like a soft 6 leaning towards a 5. But like I said, there are some things I did really like that came out of spring camp into fall camp, things that carried over, and that's very important. I know that there's some, I don't really buy into the summer workout stuff too much. These are young men. They're able to put on weight and lose weight and do different things with their body, at a level that a lot of us can no longer do anymore, right? That's always going to happen. The weight gain stuff, I can remember that always being kind of a big deal. And like, it's always about good weight, right? And putting on the right kind of weight, depending on what it is that you do. But I'm not as much on that, but it was some of the stuff that we heard out of summer camp is promising. But it's more about what we saw in spring camp, what we saw in that scrimmage versus what I got to see through fall camp. Now, also, if you haven't heard, the media is not, I guess we're just not going to be allowed at any practice, which, hey, saves me on some gas mileage. I've got plenty of footage. It'll suck we won't really have any injury reports. We won't know much other than what the U of A tells us, but I'm kind of excited because that makes my day a little bit easier. I don't have to drive into busy ass Fayetteville and spend all that money on gas. That's actually kind of a relief, but thankful that I got to be there again this year. But yeah, so many different variables, and the portal has so much to do with that. And we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know what we don't know, as a good friend of mine always says, and that's a good point, and it's especially true now with college athletics. Again, thanks to the NIL. Time for a wheel spin. I don't know, man. It's 9 o'clock. I gotta get up early and take my kids to school. I don't know. Maybe we'll do one Friday night. I don't know. Ty for let's see. Jeremy Gray says, Ty, the first 4 games will decide the year. Will be much easier to predict at that point. If they lose to both Okie State and Auburn, this thing will be over. Pittman gone after bye week. I don't think even Oklahoma State and Auburn, if he loses those, he's out. I don't buy that. I just don't. Not that early in the year. I don't know that anybody's been fired in September. I could be wrong. Maybe one I can think of off the top of my head. I don't see that happening because Oklahoma State is a legitimate playoff contender. I do think the running back, obviously Gordon, great running back. I will say, and I'm not trying to take anything away from him, would he be a Heisman contender if they had to play an SEC schedule? And my answer is no. I don't even think he'd be an All-American. But could he rip up Arkansas's defense? Hell yeah. Yeah, he's a good back, you guys. He's going to be one of the best backs probably that they face. A lot of different reasons for that. Of course, playing them at home, certainly at their place is a big part of that. I don't think the talent, there's a big gap in talent between Arkansas Oklahoma State, but he's a really good back. I just don't think if Oklahoma State had to play an SEC schedule, that he would have had the numbers that he had a year ago. However, don't take that as this guy is overrated. He's crap. Don't get it twisted, fam. I'm not saying that. He's a really dangerous back. But I don't know. I don't think that if 2 road losses, who knows how good or bad Auburn's going to be this year. I don't buy that. Now, if you lose to Auburn, you've already lost to Oklahoma State. Let's say that that's what happens. You lose on the road at Auburn. You lose to A&M. You lose to Tennessee. Now we're getting into some hot water. Now you're in October. Coaches have been fired in October. You've got that bye week after Tennessee. Anything can happen at that point. I don't know that Auburn, your first SEC game, you're fired. No, I don't buy that. But you get on a 3. I think it'd be more likely that you could probably see a change after the LSU game, assuming you've lost all those games. Because then you've now lost to 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got 5 losses under your belt. The likelihood of making a bowl game is just out the window at that point. Might as well be. Because your schedule doesn't get any easier. Having to go to freaking Starkville, that's still a tough place. I don't care. And I don't know if that hire for them was the right hire, but that could be a very dangerous game. Ole Miss and Fayetteville, we all know that's a legit playoff contender. You got a bye week, then you've got Texas coming into town, and then you cap it off against Missouri on the road. There's so many playoff contenders on this schedule. There's so many ranked high bowl game teams that you're up against this year, and that's why I have a hard time getting beyond 6 wins. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little while. I think it's going to take. It's not going to be up 2 losses, you're out. I don't think it's that simple. Now, if something crazy happens, like they lose or they play horrible against UAPB, they get blown out against Oklahoma State, they manage to lose to UAB. Let's not sit here and act like they haven't lost to some really shitty teams over the years. They get smoked on the road against Auburn. That might be a different story. Who knows, right? But I don't think that happens. Let me read chat here really quick. My man Ty, what's up, Sarge? How you doing? Heartbroken Hog. We got some Patreon supporters in chat. By the way, if you're not a Patreon supporter, you should consider becoming one. We do card giveaways every month. We have XP events and Discord. We have a lot of fun. We should do much better in 1-score games with Petrino, and I think that's you could be right. I appreciate you, Hog fan 40 ounce. Great show, guys. I appreciate you, man. Jeremy McCollum says, my prediction's 5-7. If that's the case, unfortunately, Sam needs to go. And I agree. 5-7 should not. I love Sam. I am. You talk about sitting down and having a beer. I would, I'd get out on Lake Fayetteville with the guy. I don't know about going down to his neck of the woods, but I'd go to Lake Fayetteville, get on a boat with him, and crack open some beers, and talk a little bit of football and just whatever else. What's he watching on Netflix? What do you do in your free time, Coach, besides sitting here drinking beers, fishing with some other fat guy on a boat in the middle of Lake Fayetteville? I like him a lot, but I just there's no way if you bring him back after 5 wins, you're not serious about football. And the counter argument to this annoys the hell out of me. It annoys me to no end. Well, Ty, who are you going to get? No, but for real, Ty, Arkansas is not a desirable job. Whose fault is that? I'll hang up and listen. Whose fault is that? I mean, look, I get it. And the other thing I've heard as well, he's new. He's new. It's his first ever head coaching job. Yeah, but he's coached at a really high level for a very long time, including at other stops. We know he was an offensive line coach at Georgia. He's been at multiple stops. He was here once before as an offensive line coach. And by the way, this is his 5th year. Plenty of new coaches don't survive beyond 3, 4, 5 years. That can't be an excuse. And by the way, like I said, if Arkansas is not a desirable job, you can argue Hunter Yurchik has some blame in the NIL and all that. Sure, that's fine. But you have to ask yourself, why are they struggling with NIL and why they're in the situation that they're in? The head coach is always going to get the majority of that blame. These days, athletic directors play a much larger role because of NIL. It's kind of on his shoulders to take care of that. Not that obviously Sam's involved. Bobby Petrino talked about that. But yeah, if you're going into year 5 and you're talking about, well, Arkansas is not a desirable job, bro, whose fault is that? So yeah, no, he's got to go. If you can't get to a bowl game now, if you're going to ask me, Ty, should he keep his job at 6 wins? I don't know. That's a tough one because this has been that's another argument or debate. I don't know. Plus 2 wins compared to a year ago. Should he keep his job just getting bowl eligibility? Is it asking too much to win 7? And again, if it is, whose fault is that? Okay, let's not sit here and act like Arkansas has always been a 4-win team. That's bullshit. We all know that they've at least been a team that you're talking about going to a respectful bowl game. Yeah, their time in the SEC hasn't been great, but this has just been, I don't know. And again, you go back to Chad Morris. You go back to how they handled Jeff Long's firing. A lot of different things in a very complicated equation, and it's led to this point. I think Sam will get them to 6 wins. But a big part of me says, yeah, you probably should keep him if you get to 6. But another part of me says, no, you shouldn't. It's tough, man. That's a tough one. So let's scroll down here, read some more comments. Mike says, I blame the boosters for hiring Chode Morris. Bot says, I really hope Sam kicks major ass. I want to scroll up here. Someone said something. It was Cade, I think, who said this. If I can find it, I got to scroll up a little bit. Well, man, I didn't realize it was this far up. Okay, Cade's talking about why are you wanting to hire another SMU head coach? Who's talking to Heartbroken Hog. Cade, you've got to be able to separate the coach from the job, and you've got to be able to separate and understand that there's not very many schools that hasn't had a shitty coach. SMU's had several, and yet look what the last 2 have done. Look at the last guy. Look at what he was able to accomplish. I think you have to separate the head coach and the job. He had 1 decent season at SMU, and we were all about it because of what he did at Clemson as the OC, and we kind of thought he would turn, he would get SMU. His offense would eventually, would work, and it didn't. Well, I mean, we didn't give him time. He was only there for 3 years, but we rushed it. It was just a bad hire. I mean, obviously it was a horrible hire. But you've got to be able to separate the coach from the school, because if not, then that's just a pure fan take. I mean, every school has put out a shitty coach. Does that mean that any coach from that program should never be hired? Come on, that's silly. No, if red is on the table, and if the worst case scenario does happen, and you're not at least on the phone trying to get an interview with him, yeah, well, now we've got major questions about Hunter at that point, don't we? See, SMU is a top destination now with NIL. It is, and he has been able to benefit from that. But I mean, he's doing a really good job. He's able to go after high school recruits. The thing that you like, not only that he's able to nail down high school recruits in that area, he's done a really good job in the portal. I don't know the comparison between Arkansas and SMU NIL. We know right now the narrative is that Arkansas's NIL is bad. I would say it has more to do with who the head coach is. I would say that it probably has something to do with people not really buying in to what's happening on campus. I think if you get the right guy, it's got enough belief that boosters want, that fans are excited about, that changes. Just look at basketball. Now, that's different. You're only having to field a team of really NIL guys, 12, 13 guys versus a football team. That's different, but still, I think you get the right guy, your NIL, I think, starts to pop off. And I do think Rhett Lashley, he'd be on that short list. Obviously, being from the area, playing here. I think he got his first gig here, actually. It was a GA. I could be wrong about that, but I know there's certainly a side of Springdale that wants him here. I'll tell you that much. But I listen, I think you could do far worse. than Rhett Lashley, 110%. Check. Chris Johnson says, check with Discord chat. I request an XP challenge for the Petrino offensive over under. Well, I don't know. I'll have to look at that. Jake Crane is convinced we're going to get Red to come here. Oh, all right. He was a GA in 06. Yeah, I knew he was a GA. I'm assuming this was his first GA job. Ty, if Sam gets canned, Hunter will not make the next hire. The money people will make the hire and pump in the NIL funds like they did with Cal. I mean, you may not be wrong. I don't know. It sounds like you may know more about what's going on behind the scenes than I do. I don't know. Yeah. All right. Well, that is it. Listen, I gotta go shower, hop in the bed, get ready to wake up. I don't know if I'm gonna do a Friday show or not. We've done 3 in a row, literally 2 today. I'm kind of hitting that lag point where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of, we're kind of running out of things to talk about. Now it's just like go time, right? I'm sure we could come up with something. I know next week I'm going to go over who I think those 6 wins will be. We're going to talk a little bit about, Sam's going to talk to the he's got his Sam Pittman show again next Tuesday. Maybe we'll cover what he said there if there's anything to cover. So yeah, one way or another, we'll be back. If not Friday, we will, we'll be back next week. The engines, it's turned on, baby. We're putting the pedal to the metal. We're going to be at it. There's going to be some lives next week. Maybe I'll get another set of guests to come on, right? Maybe I'll get some more because this week they killed it. Special shout out. Oh my goodness. Special shout out to Courtney Mims of Pig Trail Nation. Okay. She killed it yesterday. Shout out to Mason Choate of hogbeat.com from Rivals. He was awesome this morning. And then, of course, who we just talked to, Mr. Ty Richardson from the Morning Rush, who's moving to 9 p.m. on Monday. Chuck and Bo show, 6 o'clock on Hit That Line. So, yeah, we three great guests. Good God. 2. We had 3 great guests on this week. It was awesome. What a week. I appreciate you guys for being here, for liking, sharing, and those of you, we had a bump in subscribers. I appreciate you guys. Again, I will be back. If not Friday, I'll be back next week. Special shout out to the sponsors who helped make this possible. Direct Service Overhead, the Garage Door Company, same-day services, quality parts. You guys know the routine here. Affordable outcomes, better than best results. Give them a call today at 501-244-3667. And their link is provided for you down below. And, of course, Insurance Max, business, personal, life and health insurance, retirement. They shop the best rates for you, and they cover Arkansans in all 4 corners of our wonderful state right here in Arkansas. So go check them out. Their link is provided for you down below. Patreon supporters, again, I can't do this without you guys. Legendary status, you're going to have a shot. 4 of you. 4 legendary status members are going to have a shot at some cards. Again, I'm going to show them off one more time. We got the Darren McFadden. That's material from a game worn jersey. That's an awesome card. I just love that layout. Check that bad boy out. Okay, if you're legendary status, you got a shot at that card. We got Jamal Anderson. It's foil and it's autographed. One of my favorite hogs. Talking about one of my favorite hogs right here, Matt Jones, the freak of nature himself. Autographed in his Jaguar jersey, and of course, probably one of the coolest cards. Look at that. Look at the reflection. Look at the pretty colors there, huh? And it's autographed. That's a really cool card. So, and then of course the $4 and the $8 folks have a shot at a card as well. So just sign up. Go do it now. And not only that, you get all the access to the Tuss Talk Discord as well. Behind the scenes stuff. I shoot sometimes Patreon footage, Patreon videos. I drop practice photos and videos in there. I've got some more stuff I want to dump in there. So, but that's for Patreon members only who have access. So, all right, that's it. You guys have a have a good night. And if I don't see you the rest of the week, have a good rest of the week and weekend. I'll see you next week. There's still a possibility I go live on Friday. Be good, and I'll see you when I see you.